Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Set your hand up, Councillor Danaka.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, any changes, or are we good with it as presented? Everybody's good? All in favor? Carried. And we'll move on to our scheduled delegations. We have a couple of tonight, and we'll start with you, John. Come on up. Yeah. So when you come up, we'll get you just to hit the mic on. Turn that on. Perfect.
My voice doesn't carry? Oh.
Yeah.
That's not good. Very rarely do I use one of those. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to come and talk to you this evening. This evening, as some of you may be aware, I've been talking around town about a multiplex. I presented to the MD Council 2 weeks ago. And right now, all we're looking for is moving forward, having a discussion between the two councils and other concerned groups. Okay? I keep getting various feedback, oh, well, that was done and it fell through. There was several things. It was all well before my time. I don't know the full story, so I'm not even going to go there. To look at putting a multiplex in town or in the MD area, it's a 20 to 25 year plan. So the challenge is sitting down to have the discussions to start planning for that is what I'd be looking for. I'm looking for council support to meet with the MD Council and other groups to start having a discussion, to start planning it out, because we got to start planning out where the area that we would put it, what would we put in it. Our seniors had very limited access to anything in the winter. I think a nice walking track in a multiplex would be helpful. Having a swimming pool, having a weight room, having classrooms for doing various public training. I know Red Cross does quite a bit of water safety through the pool. There's various first aid instructors in town. That would be an awesome facility to use. The dance repertoire is presently working out of Buchanan and actively looking for other facilities. So I mean, those are just a few of the groups. If we moved forward and looked at putting in a multiplex for the area, it would actually draw people in. Right now you have residents of the MD and of town going to Valley View, going to Slave Lake. Why? They both have a multiplex and they have grocery stores. Unfortunately, we don't like to advertise that fact because that is a concern for town council, is it not? Is it a concern? Yeah. We want to try and keep the town money in town, don't we? Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councillor Rose.
David.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Do you have a group that's behind you? Like in the past, like you're right, there was this process, we went through this few years back, but the Sports Complex Society sat down with, they had, I don't know, 15 members or so that formed a society to fundraise for a multiplex at the time, right? And I believe they did go to town council, and I believe they did go to county council years ago. They got some support, but the support was, you guys go for it. Come to us when you know.
Have some.
Well, yeah, and so they went, I think there's plans, and there was lots of discussion, and they pulled from other groups, and they did pull from dance and hockey, and and they went to all the user groups to find out what the needs were within the community, like who could support it. I mean, you're right, it didn't come together. So I'm just curious, like, where are you at now? This is you presenting to us, or is there a group?
Me. 2 years ago, there was a few people that were sitting together talking over coffee about this opportunity, and it was hard getting ideas. And hindsight being 2020, we need the powers that are in control to be supportive before anything. I can't really go to, for argument's sake, the fire department, even chief, and promote this if I don't have somebody behind me supporting. Right now, it's just bare bones, looking to start the discussion process of how do we want to do it, where do we want to put it, what do we put in it, and until we get a group together to set that up. So we're basically at step one, getting some sort of group together to develop this. So that help you out?
Yeah.
Thanks, Debbie.
Councillor Gilroy.
One question of admin actually on this. Would this be part of the duties of the rec board advisory, since I thought that their part known was.
That's why I asked him, was
Okay.
because what I was going to share with you is that there is that opportunity to present to recreation. There's a board between the town and the county, right?
Okay.
And there's a branch that allows for fundraising, right? So sort of the challenge what we've seen in the past is a group, for example, say the skateboard park group, right? There was a little group of people that, I think it was a Sports Complex Society, right, at the time. And the members during the past few years made their goal the skate park, right? They fundraised for it, they had a society, they went through the process of going to design and they did all the work, but they did come to the town after they had their plan, and then they got the land. The town and the county gave them X amount of dollars. The community, or that group came and presented a couple times, and then we saw that there was challenges along the way where it was difficult for them to complete. The town actually owned the land. The GST, they weren't able to claim back the GST because they didn't have the proper status, and we sort of decided it would really be easier if there was, if the plans always came forward to the town and county by way of this recreation society,
Okay.
and then we made the decisions as a group. We'd have the town support, the county support, but first we would get the presentation. So the presentation that you're giving us, you would give to the society. So you'd have town and county council. They would bring it back to the respective councils and say, here, this is what this group within the community wants. Can we support it? Is there land to support it? But then the group would be then responsible for the fundraising arm of that to a certain degree,
Okay.
potentially with the recreation society, which would allow the access to applications for grants and just help the process go through a little
So
bit
how
easier.
often do they meet? Is that the
Well,
first
just-
time I've
Well, it's
had
just, we've just taken recreation under the umbrella of the town in the past few months, right? And so we're still just working on the details of
the
how
groundwork's
that.
being laid out.
Well, and until a group comes forward that says, like yourself, that says, hey, we have an idea, we would like to present that to the town and county, which is what you're doing. It would be, that group is there to sort of support the idea, or like they say, one, bring it back to our councils, see if we can get council support on it, and if we do, then you would work within the
With that
society
group.
that's already registered, that already has nonprofit status, that can apply for grants, that can help you through that process, right?
Okay, so when would they meet?
Well, I would say that you would present it to Mr. Martinson, and then from there we would be able to meet and get those details.
Okay.
I had one other question.
Okay. All right.
When you're saying 20 to 25-year plan, I'm assuming that's the financing of it, 20 to 25?
Well,
that you're not going to
we've
wait 25 years to actually get this plan shoveled in the ground.
Well, I would hope the shovel would be in the ground before that. 20 to 25 would be opening.
Okay.
Okay, but we've got to look at fiscal constraints too.
And what we do with
fiscal
the
planning. This is not a overnight project.
and what we do with the existing facilities would be one of the
That would
concerns.
be part of the discussion as well, yes.
Okay, well, I think what you heard here about the recreation committee is a really good next step to
Absolutely.
work through, and our CAO will help you get that arranged, and
Thank you very much, sir.
we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much for coming in and
Thank you.
sharing the idea. Thanks. All right, we also have another scheduled delegation, Mackenzie Municipal Services Agency, and we have Karen and Yemi, is that right? That's right. All right, come on up. So we'll get you to turn the mic down and turn it on, so, yep, there.
How's that,
Perfect.
good?
Yes. And just maybe for the listening audience that we're going to have at home, we should get you just to say your name and sort of what you do with Mackenzie Municipal Services Agency.
Okay. My name is Karen Divert. I'm the manager of the agency. I've been there for forever and a day, so. Go ahead.
My name is Olayemi Babalola, municipal planner with MMSA.
Thank you. So I'll turn it over to you to,
Carry on?
yeah.
All right. So I believe you've got the presentation that we have prepared. I'm not going to go through it in detail because I do want to focus on our services and the funding formula, and so I'll just kind of just start there. So to begin with, I think a lot of you are familiar with the agency. You have been a member now for 2 years, I believe. 3? Is it 3? So we're actually just getting to know your community more and more, and in fact, I believe they've arranged to have one of our planners come and spend a few days here with your staff. That's one of our, I guess, one of our goals is to become more familiar with your administrative staff and your community itself. I'm not going to go through all the vision and the mission. Our mandate is to provide planning services. The philosophy, I guess, just one thing is what we really want to focus on is for you to consider the agency as being your planning department. So you're not just gaining one person or whatnot. What we would like to really emphasize is that you're gaining this whole planning department with a lot of different skill sets that is available to you that would not be otherwise, because it is the agency is a collaborative organization. We're able to operate through having members to support us. So it's really important that we have that support in being able to carry on and to be able to provide the services that we have. Now, going on to our goals and strategies, again, I'm not going to go through these in detail. Our main focus is to provide a full range of progressive and professional land use planning services and provide comprehensive GIS and web mapping services. And those are the main goals that we, will focus on. And to do that, I just maybe want to get into the planning and development and the services that we offer. There is such a, I guess, a list of things that we can do for the town, and I think it's really important for yourself, for council and administration to realize just what these services can encompass. Like there is a lot. Like I think in terms of the town, we've just barely scratched the surface in terms of what we can provide to the town in moving forward. I have just a few examples here of some of the things that we've done for some of the other municipalities that I'd just maybe like to pass around. One is a brownfield and vacant lot redevelopment plan that we did for the town of Peace River. One is a housing study that we've completed, and one is a lot availability study that we've completed for the town of Grimshaw. So we'll pass those around and just so you can have an idea of some of the various studies and whatnot that we can do. Of course, for the planning and development part of it, you have your statutory plans, which is your land use bylaw, your municipal development plan, your intermunicipal development plans, which are an ongoing process. The other thing that we can assist with is your public engagement process. The provincial government is putting more emphasis on that, all the time. The agency can assist with that in terms of making sure those are in place. Current planning, which is your day-to-day, as issues come up, development issues, applications for development permits that may require a variance, or you're not sure in terms of how to handle it. We're available to do that. Report studies and municipal policy, again, those are some of the examples that I'm passing around that we can do. And there's so much more, and a lot of it depends on, as issues come up, we find that we have to deal with those issues that, like say, however many years ago when satellite dishes first came up, it was kind of like, you had these big monstrosities sitting in the front lawns, and it was kind of like, okay, well, how do you, what do you do with that? So that's what I'm saying, when issues like we can't necessarily imagine. Another one is the CCAN containers, that were becoming very popular for storage in yards, and a lot of municipalities were needing assistance in terms of how do you handle that type of development? Like, does somebody want one of those big CCANs next door or in their front yard? So those are different issues that come up that we can assist with. So now the other thing is the regional cooperative services. Of course, as a regional organization, we've tackled different regional issues. One of the main one that we're doing right now, which I believe this town is not involved with, but it is the regional subdivision and development appeal board. I believe the town went with Slave Lake, is that right? That area?
And Big Lakes County.
Yeah. But that's an example of one of the things that we get involved with. Certainly over the years, there's been a number that have come through. Community design is another example of some of the things. Parks, park design, trails. I believe right now the agency is working on a park design for the town. Do they not? Pardon me? Yeah. So, but like I said, there is a variety of things that we can do. And certainly, I guess, as we sit here, I would, I could ask, and Yemi is going to talk to you about the mapping, but before we get into that, just one other thing to mention is the subdivision authority. The town recently appointed the agency as the subdivision authority for the town. So we've been carrying on that process for you, which we would certainly like to continue, and that includes all of the processing and whatnot. So it seems to be working out fairly well. We've had a couple of applications that we've had go through, so we're continuing with that. Now I'm going to let Yemi speak to you about the GIS, and this is, I think, is a really integral part of our service, and I'll perhaps just let him explain where we've been and where we're going in terms of the GIS and the web mapping. Go ahead.
Okay. We have incorporated the GIS and the GIS mapping to help us. We use it as a tool to help us to manage better the due information about the municipal, especially for this town. It helps in the efficient management of the due information, and it supports collection of data, maintenance of assets, and managing other special information that we have. It's broken down into 4 categories. Standard municipal map, which is ownership map, rural addressing map, and these maps we update from time to time based on the community need. And also the general reference map include the base maps and the map for school board, for example, or infrastructural maps. And the main part of it is the web map that we initiated in 2015. And from the time of initiation until now, it has really grown, and it is growing on a daily basis. Presently, we have completed the first 3 phases that we rolled out, and now we are working on getting more updated images for the area image of the town. And also, we want to incorporate the report creation part of it into the web map, such that you can make some queries and generate a report that is ready. And also, we want to do 2 versions of the web map. One will be public access, and the other will be private. So the private will be accessible only by the municipal planners, municipal officials, administratives, and the public access will be open to the public. This can help in, for example, they want to make development permit application and stuff like that. It makes the processing much easier, and people can see real time what is going on in the community as well. And for the private access, one of the things that we are doing now that some communities are, municipalities are coming up with is this sidewalk analysis, that sidewalk assessment. Town of Grimshaw has started it, and Town of Flair will also start it soon. This project is for them to assess the condition of their sidewalk, because a lot of community is looking into making the community more walkable for people, especially seniors. So they want to know the condition of their sidewalks, and when we do this, we put it on their GIS web map, the private part of it, not open to the public. And this can also function as an asset management, so that the works department, public works, can look at it, because it's going to be kind of color coded. You know, the ones that are in good shape, the ones that need maintenance very soon, and the ones that maybe there is no sidewalk, but we think we can put a sidewalk there. So GIS as a whole is a very good tool that facilitates the management of administration of a municipalities, and we are working on it every day to improve it. For geographical analysis, one of the examples I can give here is if you want to maybe construct, let's say, a senior's home, and you want to decide on the best location to site it, you can easily click on, go to the web map, query some functions or some things you want to look at based on, for example, the demographics of the area, the connectivity of the area, and select those based on your queries. Give me the point that best satisfies these options that we want. And it's a readily available tool that you can use and kind of have an idea of, maybe take 1, 2, 3 points and build on that to decide on which is the best suitable place to put this.
Okay. I guess just one thing I want to mention is that we're going online with the web mapping for the public. So it's really, I think, important, because what we make available to the public is based on your direction, what you tell us you want in terms of what you would like me be made available to the public. And I'm noticing right now, because I see Clark usually gives us an update in terms of where we are with our GIS program and the web mapping and whatnot. And I'm noticing here that you don't have your assessment data on your GIS mapping. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, there is a reason for that. At the present time, when we were looking at it a few years ago, there was still some controversy at the provincial level as to what was confidential in FOIP and what was not. And so we have the binders. People are supposed to come in here, and if they want to find stuff, they can look at the binders. We don't have it available right now to the general public anyway, so it wasn't really an issue. Once we have it available to the general public, we can review that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess was just wondering, because everybody else has that information posted, and yeah.
When we have the public version of the web map, it is only the information that you want the public to have access to that they will have access to. It's not only information on the web. So the private one that is currently on still remains the way it is. A duplicate of it will be available to the public, but it is only the ones you want them to see that you will tell us to enable for them to see. So the privacy is still maintained to a big extent.
Yeah, so any data that you put in is for the town's exclusive use for your public works or your administration. It's not necessarily accessible to the public at large. And when we start putting this on for the public access part of it, that is completely the town's decision in terms of what information you would like the public to have access to. So, I don't know if any of you have any ideas in terms of what you would like to see available to the public, but certainly that's open for discussion. and definitely I think a very useful tool if you look at some of the websites out there from some of the municipalities in terms of what they have available to the public. You know, it's always been quite been a very positive reception to that. So again, we can only do what you give us in terms of the direction that you give us, that we can improve your GIS product and your web map. So with that, now moving on to regional development, and I kind of touched on that. As I mentioned, we are a regional organization based on regional collaboration. That's a premise that we operate on. Without the municipalities, there would virtually be no agency to be able to provide these services in-house. One of the things just to mention here is some of the highlights that we've worked on over the last few years. Certainly your municipal development plan, and the list is there. I won't go through it in detail. Of course, the cannabis was a big thing that was mandated by the provincial government and the federal government, I guess. I mentioned the subdivision authority, the green space design we're working on. One of the things that's coming up on the horizon or presently working on, as I mentioned, a closer working relationship with staff, the JC Park redesign, beautification initiatives, sidewalk condition analysis, which Yemi had explained, and the walkability plan. And certainly, you know, if there's any other projects out there that you would like to see, then, you know, bring them forward. We'd like to hear what the town will, you know, what direction you would like to go in on some of these projects, or other projects that aren't mentioned here. We're certainly open to that when we're talking about our work plan. So with that, I won't go into the because I kind of already touched on a lot of it in terms of the membership advantages, but it's there for your reference. Some of the things that yeah, I think one of the key things is having the service in the area available when you need it. Implementation. So the time frame that we're looking at is, because the contracts are going to be up at the end of this year, in order to do budget and staffing considerations, we would certainly like your response by the end of September in terms of whether or not you want to move forward with the next set of contracts. Something to keep in mind. I know there's always some concern in terms of a 5-year contract and tying, you know, new councils to that. I guess the reason we've gone to 5 years is because we've tried different time frames and whatnot, and in order to properly budget, and we found that 5 years, because activity isn't like a roller coaster, so 1 year you may not have very much, the next year you can have a lot. So get a true sense of what the agency can do. It's kind of timed out over a 5-year period. And certainly, you know, there is the option that you can opt out. You have to give a year's notice, but we need that year's notice because of budget considerations and staffing. So, but it's, you know, it still gives you that option if you feel, you know, that it might be necessary. So again, we're looking at the end of September now. In terms of the funding or the funding formula, we have revamped it. We were finding that the previous one wasn't necessarily working for some of the municipalities, so we've revamped the funding formula so that not everybody is dependent on what somebody else's assessment or population might be. It won't affect if somebody drops out or whatnot. It will not affect what your fee would be. So it's based on the assessment and population, and based on that, for the town of High Prairie, we had looked like your population and assessment gives you, with the ratings, puts you into a category 5, which would be annual fee of $85,000. Yes.
Do you want to finish and then get questions? Yeah, we'll let you finish and then we'll take.
So looking at for High Prairie, a total fee of 85,000, which brings it down by about 10,000 from what you were paying last year. So that's our new funding formula, and that more or less completes what we have to say.
Okay, now we have questions. Go ahead.
The funding formula for the assessments, did you use our total assessment or our taxable assessment? Because High Prairie has the highest that's exempt of taxation. Of 35% of our income is non-taxable. So that makes a big difference as to what we have revenue.
We use the equalized assessment tables off of Municipal Affairs website is where the figures that we used.
The equalized for education purposes?
It just says equalized assessment. That's what we've used in the past.
Yeah, that's not a true figure because that's not the taxable part. The taxable part is very, very different. Some communities only have 18%. That's properties that are exempt. High Prairie has 35%, pretty well the highest in the province.
Well, if you feel your assessment figure isn't right, then certainly.
No, I'm just wondering about your
But
formula.
that's what we used. We used it was called the equalized assessment.
Yeah.
From Municipal Affairs website, and that's what we used for all of them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the formula should probably be changed for all of them to reflect the taxable portion.
Yeah, and which, I mean, can happen, because what will happen is that then we would just have to adjust the tables to reflect that. Mm-hmm. So whether or not if your equalized assessment comes down to, say, hypothetically 100,000, then we would have to look at adjusting the tables to compensate for that. So, but in the past, we've always used just the equalized assessment. Nobody has ever said anything otherwise that we shouldn't be using those. So certainly it's something that we can look into.
Councillor Rose?
First, I'll just ask Terry to follow up with that question. Terry, I mean, and I understand exactly where you're coming from there. The assessed value that they've got down here is 302. Did you take a look at this? The amount
I didn't get a copy of the presentation, so I can't say.
So do you know what ours is minus the 35%? Do you have any idea?
Would have to look at the summary that we got from Warren to find out.
Okay, I thought you might know just by looking at the number.
Yeah. No, it's just the fact that it might be disproportionate because if, let's say, the town of High Prairie is paying 15% of the total costs, but our taxable income is only 7%, then we're paying an unfair amount.
No, I
And
hear
so
you,
that's
yeah.
why I wanted to go with the taxable amount.
No, for sure, and I know exactly where you're coming from, and I don't think everybody realizes some of the challenges we have. But I also have a few other questions. So you said to improve our GIS and web mapping availability, making it more accessible, like putting our assessed values on there may be beneficial. So you said most other communities do?
All of them.
All of them do? Okay. So what would be your recommendation for us to improve that accessibility for people?
Well, I guess, I put that question back to you is what would you like to see, what information would you like to see the town make available to its public, to its ratepayers? I mean, in terms of the GIS and the web mapping, it's pretty,
So what piece are we missing? Mostly just the assessed value?
The assessment, yeah, right now, and I believe is that the only thing? I believe you've got everything else on there that everybody else does. It's just, I guess, based on what your public works can use, and I think we've got most of the utilities and whatnot on there. So, but again, if it's the public access part that you're talking about, then certainly, I would have to say it's what do you as a council want to see your ratepayers, but information.
So the other communities that have gone forward with putting forward their assessed value or assessment amounts on their properties, is that for development access? Like what is it's just
for in-house, for mainly for in-house. I don't see. We've just started working on the public access portion of the web mapping, so I can't say for sure. We're only working on a couple right now. Whether or not they are even putting the assessment values.
So you're
on
saying
the
assessment
board.
values for in-house use and not for public use?
That would be up to
Again,
the
I'm
council.
asking you, I'm just to get a sense for us, because I mean, asking us
Yeah.
what we want, we don't know. We're looking at what is the best
What would
for the,
people, and I-
that's right, yeah, for the
appreciate
community,
that,
what's,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The assessment value is for the in-house use that can enhance decision making. Like you can just click on a parcel and it prints out all the details you have instead of going through a binder and trying to find something. You get it by a click of a mouse. That does not go to the public. No, the
Okay.
public don't have access to that.
Okay.
So it just kind of facilitates the way you do your things and makes organization much easier.
So is that turning to public access?
No.
No? So
No,
that's not
it-
what you're talking about here, is you're just talking about all
We just advise saying that it's good to have it in your web map because we believe it will make decision making in the office easier.
Right, okay. So what do you see would be the advantages then for us to go that route? Like, I mean, I just wanted to get a better understanding of it because we had talked about it before when you guys had presented years ago, and you were clicking on it, and that's when we realized that we didn't have the assessed value. So I'm just curious. So it's just decision making for council and for town staff.
The main advantage to this is it saves time and improves efficiency.
Improves efficiency. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Councillor Gilroy.
I have to be a little biased here because, of course, I represent the council on this committee, but we were part of the decision making for the equitable funding as well. But you were talking about some of the projects that we're doing. I was going to say that. Are there any other specific projects that you might consider, or that maybe our council may want to toss out there that might enhance the town, that you could ask if they would actually be able to consider doing? I know you mentioned the park, and we haven't quite done JC Park yet, and I know that the Chamber of Commerce would look like an assessment on downtown revitalization, which I think you guys could do. You did that for Peace River.
Yeah, we've done that for I think for the town of Fairview, we did extensive park designs, trails, trail design. So that's definitely within our wheelhouse that we could provide that service. The downtown revitalization, definitely, that's something that we could look at. And I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to say, well, you could look at this, and this, without, because there's so many different things that we've done over the years, and I guess it comes down to, actually sitting down and getting to know your community and getting to know your staff and getting to know yourselves, just in terms of which way you would like to move forward and how to enhance your community the best way we can. Like, noticing talking about the multiplex and different things like that. There's always probably something out there but sometimes it's good going to your ratepayers and saying, how do you see your community being enhanced, and there's definitely different ways of getting that information in terms of just improving the livability of your community through various planning projects. So
I just want to also have you address that one rumor that we've heard that your head planner is now been hired by Peace River. And so if you could talk about how you see your organization, which will be celebrating 25 years next year,
25 years.
how
next year.
you see the stability of it, because obviously this council doesn't want to invest money and then suddenly have not be able to get the work done. And
Well,
so-
definitely, and that's a good question, Brian. I mean, certainly it threw us for a bit of a loop when Peace River hired away our lead planner. I mean, but I mean, that's life. Our plans are, we will be doing a plan of succession. Our plans are to replace that position. We will be going out and advertising in July. We'll start that process. Alicia will be with us till the end of December, so we have got quite a long transition period to work with. So we will be moving forward with that. You know, I've seen planners come and go, and definitely it's always been a disappointment when they do, especially somebody that has worked so well for us as Alicia. But that's part of it, and we have to work with it. I certainly see the agency as being stable. We have every intention of moving forward. We, you know, filling the positions as best we can, and carrying on. I mean, it's not the first time that we've lost staff. You know, I mean, it happens, and especially, you know, when you're talking about a professional, you know, position, they tend to move on. We've always kind of looked at ourselves, unfortunately, as a bit of a training ground for the younger planners coming out. That's reality because of our location. We've certainly looked at different ways of retaining staff, and we do, in order, you know, like we try to make our salaries as competitive as possible with, you know, being realistic as we can. We do operate on a very tight budget. We aren't frivolous in terms of our budget at all. But we have to make sure that our staff is paid, and, you know, with regards to the provincial level, and that's the best that we can do, you know, in terms of retaining staff. I mean, you can't give them the moon. There's no point in that, and we won't be held, you know, we won't be blackmailed into keeping staff to saying, well, give me more. We won't do that. So I think that we plan on moving forward as we have every other time, and I see the future as being very stable in terms of where we're going. I mean, I'm committed. I've been there so long. I mean, certainly, and I will put this out there. I mean, I am, after going on, you know, 40 years, I think it's time that I need to be looking at retirement, and that was my goal. But with this happening, you know, with Alicia leaving, that's going to change a bit. So I certainly, I'm committed to the agency, and I'm not going to be leaving until I know that the agency is in a very good position in terms of the staffing and able to carry on. I mean, I don't think anybody is ever irreplaceable. So certainly I would like to think that it would make sure that the agency is on an even keel and on a steady course before I leave. So that's.
Councillor Stenhouse.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm familiar with MMSA with our bylaw committee. I know you guys have helped us out a lot with the cannabis and some of our land use bylaws and stuff like that. Are we using you guys to your full potential?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think that's why we want to have a planner come and spend a little bit more time here, you know, with your administration, so that, and that's one of the things that we want to focus on, is that, you know, we have all these services. Take advantage of that, use them, and I think the more that we become familiar with your administration and your in-house staff, that will happen. But it's I mean, we're accessible, we're there. It's just knowing what services we can provide and using them. So that's really one of the things that we want to focus on is you know, working more closely with the administration and making sure that they know what we can fully provide. I mean, there's not just the, you know, like you mentioned, the land use bylaw, there's so much more than that. You know, to me, that's one of your long-term plans, your municipal development plan. That's one of your long-term plans, but there, to me, there's so much more that can be accomplished, you know, by working together. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it does, because like I said, the only thing I'm familiar using you guys with is the bylaw. I'm on that committee, so
Yeah.
I know that we've used you with the bylaw, but
Yeah, sometimes we find it, sometimes we find it a real struggle to get the message out there in terms of what we can provide and fully understanding the scope of our services. So that's what we're trying to focus on more and more.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I just wanted to let council know that Karen and her staff have been an immense help to administration staff here in the office. Like, I would say Marion's been phoning at least 3 or 4 times a week, asking advice, and, the MGA has been changing so much that, to meet deadlines and that for various development permits and everything else, they have been doing a heck of a job for us. And unfortunately, council only sees a little bit of the use, but we use them basically daily, sort of thing. So thank you again.
Thank you, appreciate it. And we enjoy working with the town for sure.
Councillor Rose.
So I just want to say that's the part of this that when this was originally pitched, that we thought was a great fit for a small municipality where we can't afford to have the staff and the planning department available. That this was a way to sort of give High Prairie that edge, right? The other small municipalities, and I think that the concept of sort of shared employees is basically what this is. How do you see moving forward? Like, obviously there's what Councillor Stenhouse had asked, a bit of a gap where you feel like we're not using you to your full potential. If we're going to go forward and consider an extension, how do you feel like you'd be able to enhance that relationship with administration, and do you have recommendations on things that we're not using to the full potential that you know now that we could use?
Well, to answer that, I think certainly, as I mentioned, like the only way that I think we can find that out is by working more closely with your administration and spending that time getting to know the community and your administration better, or, working more closely. And I think that's the only way that we can focus on it, because that's the only way, by getting to know your community better, what your wants are, what your needs are. And to determine that, I mean, certainly we're so many miles away, but it definitely, I think by having one of the planners come in, that's one of the focus things. And, maybe we need to do that on a more regular basis, right? Is for our planning staff to spend more time in the community. And I'm not saying that, we're going to be in your face kind of thing, but definitely I think there's value in getting to know the community and the people within it, not just council, not just the administrative staff, but your ratepayers as well, and to find out what the heartbeat of the community is, and how best to serve them. But planning is sometimes a slow process. It's not an overnight thing, and sometimes it's not a tangible thing, so it's really difficult sometimes to sell it, because you can talk about your long-range plans and you get this completed, and a lot of times those plans just get put on a shelf and they don't get followed through on. So one of the things that we look at, when we produce a plan, is to follow up on it, to make sure that it's being, followed, that there's a backup on it, is that, okay, we've developed this plan, now don't just let it sit there and gather dust. Let's see what we can do to implement all of those recommendations. So that's one of the things as well that we want to focus on. So in moving forward, it's again, just as I mentioned, working more closely with your administration, and I mean, certainly we've had nothing but cooperation from Brian and the staff, and look forward to being able to do that even more.
Okay, in the interest of time, we'll just take 2 more questions and then we'll have to move on. Councillor Long?
I'm hearing that I'm hearing the questions of what is it we need from you? What is it that you can provide for us? And what are we missing? Do you have, when you come in to see us and you send in your planners, do you have a matrix of the services that you think are absolutely essential for a community? And then that matrix would also reflect what's the Cadillac version, what's things that you can work within your community? Or do we just have your planners come here and meet with us and then see what we need?
Well, I guess it should be a little of both, whether or not we have this magic, like you said, matrix, not as such, but I would suppose as professional planners that is something that they, as a planners, would be able to see in terms of when you get to know a community. So, but definitely, you know, when you mention that, I would think that would be something that, say if we're looking at the town of High Prairies, it's kind of like doing an assessment, right? It's coming in and saying, okay, you know, this is what you need to move, you know, but finding out again what those needs are and which way the council, what direction is it? Because it's got to come from you, right? Like, I mean, we can sit here and come up with all these highfalutin, airy-fairy ideas, you know, that might work for some place like Toronto or Edmonton, but not necessarily your Fairviews or your High Prairies. So exactly. You have to get to know the community and move forward from there. So, I mean, definitely sitting down and getting to know your staff and your ratepayers better, that's something that we come up with. We try to sit down with every CAO at least once during the year to talk about different projects and issues and how we can come up with a work plan. So, do we have a magic thing that we can look at and say this is what? No, not necessarily. I think it's something that's planned over time. So.
Thank you.
Did you have a question? Okay.
I was just going to, it's sort of a follow-up to Councillor Rose's question. Is there a possibility, since the planner is planning to come in, that before you said a September deadline for the contracts, that we could have a combination of our admin and your planner come up with sort of a paper saying what you discussed or what you consider the priorities, so that we could actually look at some of the projects possibilities of what you think, or what together you think our town needs. So a report basically on your time here.
I guess, you know, I would have to put that back to probably to Brian and to Alicia, who is still determining, you know, like I said, she's still on staff till the end of the year. In terms of the purpose of I believe it's Comiete that will be coming.
Community and leadership.
Okay, just and I think that's one of the purposes, but definitely that's something that you know, we can discuss with Brian whether or not. Yeah, because I mean, you don't want to take up too much of council's time either, but if they've got something tangible that they can bring forward and say these are what some of the things that have been discussed or what has been accomplished through these visits, is that what you're?
It's more of accountability, and also it gives the entire
council and possibly the public an idea of exactly what how we've invested our time with your group and with our admin. So it might give us a clearer idea going forward.
Yeah, and just to sort of wrap up, I was sort of on the same lines as that we've had some real projects that we've identified in the past to say we really want these done, and I guess at this point we're kind of, you talked about that up and down, we're sort of we don't have anything really pressing on the line, but if we can identify those, that'll really help for us in making the decision as, you know, what are those projects that we could be using and should be using. So that would be good if you can come up with some of those kind of ideas.
We'll definitely look into that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming down and taking the time to go over all of the things that you offer.
Well, I want to say thank you as well. I certainly appreciate allowing us to make this delegation. Like I said, we've enjoyed having High Prairie come on board, and certainly we would like to continue to provide that service. I see a lot of potential with the town, and certainly would like to be part of that, in terms of moving it forward, because I know for a number of years you didn't have the access to the planning and whatnot. So I see that there is probably, things that we can do to move forward in that regard. So thank you again, and if you have any questions, definitely have somebody call the office. We'll do what we can to provide you with any other information. And definitely I may talk to you about that assessment, those assessment figures, Terry, if you're available to do that. Okay? So thank you again.
Thank you.
And have a good evening.
Safe trip back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move along a bit in our agenda, moving to our fire chief's report. Can I get a motion? Oh, sorry, I've jumped ahead. Thank you for that. Right. Yep. Do we have any public delegations?
John, want to come up again?
Yeah.
You want me to talk some more?
Yeah.
I've been known to talk a lot.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. So with no public delegations, we'll move to the fire chief's report. Can I get a motion? Councillor Gilroy.
I move that council receive the fire chief's May 2019 report for information.
All right, do we have any questions for our chief? Not yet. Do you have anything you'd like to bring to our attention? That was a good report.
I would just like to say that May has been a very busy month for us. We've had a lot of calls, 15 emergency calls that we responded to, and with the fires and everything up north, we had 3 weeks in a row where we had a crew go up each week and help out with the firefighting up north. So, and with all the fires we've had here and with all the fires up north, we haven't really had time to do much with the reception center. So thank God for our CSS and town staff. They were able to look after everything, and everything turned out well.
Councillor Gilroy.
Actually, I just want to say thank you to your department for loaning the barbecue for the FCSS barbecue. I know it's a June idea, but your firefighters were awesome in providing the burgers last Friday. So can you just say thank you? And hopefully we'll get some more for our barbecue at the end of the month from you guys.
But it was during, you did it on behalf of us.
No, I think it was just us.
It was just us.
FCSS asked us to do it, so it's
Originally,
their whole week.
a couple of years ago. We run with it ourselves.
Yeah.
But you're right, I mean, FCSS puts on that.
Well, any more questions?
Councillor Danaka.
Being that you're soon to retire, I'm assuming this will be your last report.
It is, yeah.
It is your last report. I just want to say on behalf of myself, it has been a pleasure serving with you. And thank you for keeping us abreast of what's been happening with the fire department. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for training the boys and the girls to protect us. And may you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. I've enjoyed my time here. Some days I'm really wondering why I'm hanging up the shingle, but it's scary some days. Some days I'm happy.
When you're on the lake, you'll know why.
Yeah, he wants free fish.
All right, no other. Oh, okay.
We'll probably all echo what Donna had to say, but one more question about the that came up as with the evacuation center.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we with the EOC plan that I think went into I guess you started working on it, you guys, like the town and the county went to work on that joint plan after the first fire, so we had a plan in place for an emergency again, and then it sounded like it really wasn't quite in place yet, so do you know very much about that?
Not really, no, Nicole.
Yeah, Hannah.
is the one that's looking after all that. So.
Well, it was Louise, and I did reach out to Louise to find out, because I've been on the board for a number of years, and I said, I'm sure this already came up to us, because Nicole asked myself.
Right.
And I said, I thought we looked into where we went to the county, and the FCSS went to the county and got it started, and Pat and whoever the CAO at the time was said that the process got started, but it never got finished. So I'm just curious, you don't know anything about it? Okay. Ryan,
I believe they're looking at that in the fire, in that report that they did, creating one emergency management team.
Do you remember it coming forward before?
Yes,
And it just, and Donna, were you part of that too?
I vaguely remember something about that, but
I was so surprised when I said, no, I'm sure it's done, but, okay. Just curious where everybody thought that was at. So, I mean, hopefully we can get that plan finished. But
Yeah, I know
I
we've
guess you're
done
off the hook.
those tabletop exercises
Yeah.
a few years ago in preparation for all of that, and to work it out and make sure that the plan was ready when it hit the ground.
I think the biggest problem with that is to get commitment from everybody and get everybody together. You know, work as a team and get time to do it.
Councillor Gilroy?
Well, actually, I'm thinking of what Nicole said, that she was planning to do some evaluation after the whole thing settles down, and I look forward to hearing from our FCSS people to find out what she's going to do. No, and basically, I know she had planned to also set up some new training, so there'd be more volunteers that were trained to be able to take over, so they wouldn't have to work as many long hours. So I'm just looking forward to the whole gang that was in charge actually getting together and looking to see how it can be improved.
And Chief, do we have anybody still in high level, or is everybody back? Everybody's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we never did have a crew up in Wabasca, Slave Lake, and the other way has been looking after all that. So we had 3 crews up there for 4 guys for a week for 3 weeks. So, we used the county's pumper truck out of Manila. And we're still, we don't know whether we're going to get paid for our time up there or not. If we do, maybe the town will make a little bit of money. I don't know. It's all up here so far. I'm not going to be months before we hear anything about that.
How did the people that went up there enjoy the experience, or was it worthwhile? Or
It was, yeah, and they said it was way better organized than Fort McMurray was. Fort McMurray was just a big disaster. It was like they went up there and they spent 4 days up there and they sat in the parking lot for 4 days. These guys went up, they had hotel rooms, they were fed, they were, when they went to Fort McMurray, they were on their own. They had to get their own groceries, they slept in the back of the truck. I mean, high level was way more organized. And I think a lot of that has to do with that mutual aid agreement that we signed for the North Peace. I think a lot of that came out of there, so I think that was a good thing.
okay, well, and as Donna has already mentioned, thanks so much for all you've done over the many, many years that you've been with us.
Do you want to introduce the fire chief? That's here.
Okay, moving on to our peace officers report. Oh, sorry. We had a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? Yep. Good. Motion for our peace officers report. Councillor Gilroy.
I'll do both. The council received the Senior Peace Officers April 2019 report for information.
All right. Anything you'd like to highlight for us?
The first thing I'd like to do is, on behalf of the party program, I was asked to present this certificate to the town based on your sponsorship of the party program, and just to give you a thank you for the years of, it's got 10 plus years supporter of party program, the town of High Prairie, acknowledging recognition of a major sponsor of the High Prairie Party program. So, a big thank you from the committee in helping out with this. For the monetary and the in-kind donations you've presented to the program. So, it'll be displayed out front for all to see. I'll give it to Brian to.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll get it. You got it. Okay.
Yeah, wait, I'll take a picture.
I'll do a picture for Brandon.
Okay.
Is it, we're recognized as a party now.
So you're going to post that, bro?
So to go continue with the report, if I'm open to questions, if council has any, or whatever.
Okay, I'll open the floor for questions. Councillor Stenhouse.
So I'd like to talk about I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here. This is your April report.
Okay.
But this just happened on Saturday, and a couple days ago, I'd like to talk about the curfew bylaw.
Okay.
So it's been brought to my attention of these houses being egged at 4513 56th Ave. That's a common occurrence that's been taking place. The last one was Saturday at 2:20 in the morning. So I'm not sure if I should be directing this question to you or to our CAO. Do we have RCMP patrolling or doing drive-bys at these hours in the morning? Do we have somebody in town? Because there seems to be, this cul-de-sac seems to be getting hit every couple nights.
4513 what?
56th Ave, right behind the tennis courts. And it happened at 2:20 a.m.
Okay.
Minors, assumed minors.
We have been adjusting our schedule due to the fact about the recent B&Es in town, but it's going to be one of those things that they hide in the dark, and when we drive by, we don't see them running, or if we don't see them, it's one of those things like they're going to pop out after we drive by and they're going to start throwing, right? But saying that, not to say that our presence, if they see us driving around, might deter the odd one, but we can obviously make more patrols in that area, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, I did promise these residents that I would bring it. They asked me to bring it up to the meeting tonight.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that seems to be happening every other weekend, and the last one was on Saturday, this Saturday.
And it's one specific residence, so.
No, it's multiple residents.
Oh, okay.
But they're targeting a house every other night, a different house every other night in that cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Councillor Gilroy.
If you could clarify, I've heard in the community that we had some young people in the old hospital vandalizing it. How's that working? Because I know a while ago we were going to be dealing with young people that were on top of the hospital, and now I hear they've been in the hospital. How is that being dealt with?
That'll be coming up in my next.
I can answer that. Actually, they're looking at installing some cameras in that area on the building itself. So
DHS doing that.
I don't know who's doing that. I believe it is over the health services. They've been going in and smashing windows. So I think
We did catch six individuals, and dealt with them accordingly. So I think we sent the message, but it's hard to say.
Well, and if we can get some of that information, because we can bring that to the ministers as we lobby to have that old hospital demolished and removed, that'll be some more ammunition that we need on what's going on there.
I send notice, or not notices, but letters to the infrastructure authority in the hospital in Edmonton as to what we counter and what we've been dealing with. So I've sent him probably 3 or 4 letters, so it's documented.
Okay, well, we should, the council should know those things, so when we go to meet with the ministers, we've got the bullets to fire.
I can draft up.
Please do.
Okay.
Just send copies of them to Nancy, and she can put them in, like when we go to see the minister, like background information, right? We should just have that.
Yeah, we need that kind
So
of
as many
information.
times as you can write a letter, you can get another one. Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Any Councillor Danaka?
With it being spring/summer soon, I've been noticing, and this is my opinion, more unsightlies. And I'm not sure where, like you said, unsightly warnings were sent in April. I mean, it's May, June now. There's a couple of them. I guess my one specific one is anything happening with the dairy, the old dairy building.
As far as the building structure itself, no.
Okay, because I mean, when you drive in, you see that building and you see the big hole in the roof.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I mean, it's unsightly, it's unsafe. I mean, I don't know how to address that, or what's the best way to address that.
I think from our last year, we were dealing with the children, teenagers going in there. The owners were getting quotes on demolishing it, but I think it's going to be depending on the price, how soon they can get it done. But that's as far as the built structure. I haven't sent anything about that, but all the other unsightlies. Just to update you on the last week, we've sent out over 22 unsightly notices. So, and on my tour per patrol today, I noticed that probably 75% of them have been cut, cleaned up. So we usually give a week notice to have it done, and it's.
So my other question, based on what you've just said, is the unsightly that you're citing in your citations and your notices? Is that just uncut grass, or is it like the house across the street that has all the debris piled and shavings and cut wood on?
Combination of both. It's when we see the collection of refuge in the backyards, we send notices.
Okay.
But as of right now, it's 80% is uncut grass. So.
Okay, I had a question. Just when you have in your report a court order on an unsightly, when do we take it to court?
This particular one, after I did the report, was rectified, so it won't be going to court. The process is we give them a certain period of time. If they refuse or don't comply, then we make an application at the courts for the judge to indicate to this person or individual to have it done, cleaned up, or the town will send in a crew and at their expense clean it up.
Okay, so that goes to the court to make that final decision that the town will clean it up.
The
at their
Queen's
expense.
Bench Court, yeah, in Peace River. That's
Oh, okay. I thought we just did that automatically if they didn't clean it up at the time frame. So
it's a touchy situation based on if we're asked to leave the property, the owner or the tenant says, please remove yourself from this place. That's giving us the indication that's when we go to the court. Right? Courts.
Okay.
But yeah, any unsightly grass cutting, we usually send in a contractor. And to date, I haven't had any residents or tenants dispute the fact that the town has cut their grass. So, other than the one last year, if council remembers that we were a little bit of over between him hiring the contractor and us sending in a contractor. So communication there was just a little off. It was rectified. So.
And one other question, we had a public delegation in last week on a business license issue, and that was supposed to be in court. Can you update us on what happened with that?
Not guilty plea. It's going to trial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all I can say.
Okay.
We're following the bylaw as to the penalty, and I don't know. I'm not sure why.
Well, no, I was just wondering, like, it's going to court, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if it got resolved when it went there or what had happened. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Following up on what you're asking him, because I'm curious, based on our bylaw, I read it after the public delegation came and discussed their concern about the fines that we imposed. And our bylaw doesn't have a clear fine that is imposed at the time that it seems to be kind of arbitrary. Like it was, a fine of no less than $250 and no more than $1,000. So who chooses the amount that we fine them, and at what increments? Like it's not very clear in the bylaw.
We can issue the fine based on that. It's the minimum amount is $250. If this progresses, we can send them to court, and the judge can decide from that $250 to $1,000. So.
But in this particular case, he shared with us that he had been fined a number of times. Like he got a number of letters that one was for X amount of dollars, another was for another amount of dollars, another was for another amount of dollars. So I'm just, I mean, I know we're not.
It's the 250. We give him a month each time.
And it's another $250 each time.
Yeah.
Is that what it
Yeah,
was? Okay,
yeah.
so that's when he said it was more money.
Yeah.
It wasn't an extra fine for
No,
a
same.
larger amount.
No, same. 250. We have
So-
the discretion to
No, and
do that.
that's what I'm just asking is what is it? Because because I thought, oh, well, I'll go to the bylaw so it's clear.
Yeah.
Because as he was explaining, I thought, oh, I'm very confused because it sounds like that we were fining him an awful lot of money, and I didn't understand why. Because the fee was only $100, right? That his business license, the actual charge was only $100. So when
Right.
he was basically saying by the end his fines were really that high, I thought, oh well, I just wanted to understand the fines better. So it is an arbitrary amount that you can choose, and it doesn't say how often you're going to send them another fine.
Well,
so you're saying monthly, you'll send them another fine.
We give them the month. We can do that arbitrarily too. We can give them a week, but we're trying to work with them. Or
So is it
make-
consistent, Alan, that we're giving everybody who's missed
Yes.
payment with a business license and they haven't paid, they get a $250 fine?
Yes.
If they don't pay that $250 fine by the next month, then they're $500, and then by the next month they owe $750. Is that pretty well standard?
Yeah,
for
pretty
everybody?
much. Yeah. We have another gentleman going to trial too for the same fact, same reason. So, yeah, I don't understand their logic about why they don't want to pay $100 versus $250. It's whatever. It's their choice, I guess. But.
Yep. Councillor Gilroy.
Knowing that we're having the drift pile, northern, is it Michael? Help me with this one. The northern North Country Fair. Thank you. I'm assuming that all our law enforcement agencies have already talked about make sure we have adequate policing or patrols in all our areas.
We have our interagency meeting tomorrow, and this will be a subject of
Thank you.
topic of subject or discussion.
Yes.
That's
okay. I understood.
Yeah. Okay.
I was happy to see that you've got approval for a crosswalk at the skateboard park, so that's great. And now if we can see if we can get some money, or looking at grants for that, is that my understanding?
Yep. Treasurer's got that under control.
Okay.
I've already got the grant application in, and it qualifies under that grant, no problem. But the application form is not available online yet by the new government. Everything's still locked up, so it's in the queue. Once they unlock it, I can just hit print, and send all of them. But I got 5 or 6 projects already all done up, ready to go. And I got all the information from the Alan Bloom. And then I also had a phone call from that particular grant. I think it was a week ago. Well, she phoned 2-3 weeks ago. I missed her call. I called her back. She didn't return my call. She returned my call. We finally connected with each other, and she just had a simple question in regards to the fact that we did have transportation approval, we did have the quotes, and she needed to know what the quote involved, if there was any labor, and that was the only question. So basically, it's a slam dunk as soon as the thing is available.
Excellent. That's good. And just wondering about the status of the new radio system. This has been the same statement's been on here for a couple of years now.
In the
process, where that's at.
Ongoing process. Yeah. The radios are being programmed right now with the radio different frequencies and stuff. So once that's completed, I've just been waiting to be more consistent with the RCMP when they turn over to the system. So we will be.
What's the estimated completion date of that?
They're supposed to be online September sometime. Okay. September this year. So we. I'm guessing probably this summer, early July or something will be.
So soon?
Soon.
Excellent.
Soon.
Good. All right, anything else? or Mr. Bloom? Seeing nothing, we had a motion to receive his report for information. All those in favor? Carried. How are we doing for time there, boss? You good? We can keep going. Okay, we'll go to Public Works. Can I get a motion on 55th Avenue, additional curb, gutter, and sidewalk? Councillor Danaka.
I make a motion that council reallocate the funding from 47th Street overlay to 55th Avenue additional curb, gutter, and sidewalk removal and replacement.
Take us away, Mr. Walker.
Council at the May 28th meeting requested us to look into this. After that, we got an estimate from E-Construction in regards to the cost of doing the extra sidewalk and curb on 55th. An unfortunate incident happened on 47th, which was a blessing, really. Our maps were indicating a 6-inch water line there. It's only a 4, and we don't do paving over 4-inch water lines without replacing them. And it is in not good shape, so in discussions with Brian, we canceled the 47th Street project already with E-Construction, so they're aware that it's being canceled. And we're just requesting to transfer $59,000 or $60,000 of that to 55th, which was 74, I think it was, that was allotted for 47, to 55th to complete what council had requested us to do.
Okay, any questions on this one? Councillor Stenhouse.
Believe it or not, I got another question. In this contract, or quote, general terms and conditions, it says standby time for the crews, if delayed by others, will be charged at $1,900 per hour per crew. Now that is people caused delay only, not weather delay?
Not weather delay.
Okay.
All right, I know just, I'll ask my question on this one is, I know we had, when we talked about the curb and gutter for that 55th was, you know, in discussions of, I'm going to say, beautification of the town and making it look better, which is, it's important and good, but is there any other streets that we should look at versus curb and gutter right now? Because I know we were getting a fabulous deal from E-Construction, so that's why I'm just wondering, we're probably not getting a great deal on curb and gutter like we were going to get on an overlay, or maybe we are. It's just
Probably not as well as the overlay, but there are other streets that need to be addressed. But now, in the time frame that they have to get in and get this done and get out of High Prairie now, we would be looking at late October construction if we were to add any more.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking maybe a replacement to 47th Street versus the curb and gutter. That's what I'm just wondering.
For the dollar figure, the places that we really need to do that are in poor shape, we're looking a lot more than $74,000.
Okay.
Just as 47th Street is now not going to be $47,000 or $74,000 when it gets done, because the water line is going to jack that up quite a bit.
Councillor Rose?
So the 4-inch water line, is that old water line and you're replacing it with 6? Is that why?
It will be when it's done. It'll be either 6 or 8 that goes in there now. Yeah. And we have slowly been taking out all the 4-inch and replacing all of that. As we go forward, the 8-inch stuff that's been coming out, or even some of the 6-inch stuff that's been coming out, is like it's brand new. But the 4-inch, for some reason, is not in good shape.
And have we made that decision about putting conduit in for fiber? Has that been something that we're considering now, or?
Yeah.
Now we talk about it, but then I can't remember every time we talk about a road whether or not.
In the new construction where we're not just doing an overlay, that's where we're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because where we're just doing an overlay, we can do directional drilling with that conduit. That's just 2 holes at the end of the blocks.
So you got all the information that you need to go ahead with putting fiber through there, and what size of fiber and all that stuff?
For this on 55th?
Yeah.
Nope, I haven't received any of that information for that.
Okay.
Typically, we wouldn't do that on just an overlay anyways.
Oh, yeah, just an overlay, yeah, versus
Yeah. So when next year's street projects come forward, we'll have to have some of that information, and then we can put it as part of the contract to be put into the ground.
Okay, any other questions? We have the motion that we reallocate the funding from 47th Street to additional curb and gutter on 55th Avenue. All those in favor? Carried. Minutes. Can I get a motion on our minutes? Councillor Rose.
The council approved the minutes from the May 28, 2019 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any additions, changes to the minutes? Everybody's happy with them? All in favor? Carried. And what's that? Okay, we'll take, it's 8:30, we'll take a break now.